A bell like a preparation bell rang in the central tower, and when fewer and fewer students walked, Professor Leon walked along the road and entered a certain building. It was a teaching building. Like other buildings, the teaching building also has a cyan roof and white stone, and the interior is also very clean. Naturally, I looked around curiously, like an old farmer entering town. The hallway here is also very white, but it is different from the castle-like interior in Battle Wilderness. After walking for a while, Professor Leon stopped in front of a door. Okay, that's it. Inside are the people who will become your super friends. My eyes widened, but Mr. Leon on the side just smiled and encouraged me. Let's go in together. After a slow knock, I followed the teacher who opened the door and walked in. This is a classroom. The area is huge. It's like a little theater. The lectern and blackboard were at the other end of the room, and a long mahogany table formed a semicircle around the former. The seat is a single-level, mortar-type structure. Perhaps the impression of a small theater is actually correct. There are many students sitting in this classroom. Humans, demi-humans, elves, dwarves, Palans and Amazons. People of all races gathered here, all teenagers. There were more than 50 people. Wearing school district uniforms, they looked at Teacher Leon and me as they entered the classroom. I couldn't help but feel a little shaky. At this moment, Professor Leon walked towards the podium in front of the classroom, so I hurriedly followed. According to the plan, today we will give a brief explanation about the Labyrinth City's training. However, before that, we will introduce your new partners. Rapi. When I heard him calling softly again, I understood. I will introduce myself here. This moment is the beginning of the student self. As soon as I found out about this, I was nervous. The students looked at me with interest. It looks like a strange guy is coming. I feel like I'm going to have these auditory hallucinations at any moment. Is this my delusion of persecution? I don't know why, but my feet are shaking. I made a decision with a different feeling of discomfort than exploring a maze. Breathing in soft, desperate air through his nose, he stepped forward from the pulpit. The students' eyes surrounded me and a feeling of oppression came over me, probably caused by nervousness. When I think about teachers like Mr. Leon giving lectures in this kind of place every day, I feel a sense of respect in my heart. I foolishly escaped reality and, after a while, said, I am Belle Cra. Rapi Flemond, from the capital Belle Crown. Please give me your advice. I almost said my real name and messed up. The whole thing, which had sweat running down my neck as I hung my head, trying to fumble. Professor Leon's wry smile could be heard clearly, and I raised my head shakily, and then. Please give me some advice, fellow countrymen. Don't be so nervous. If you're a man, you should hold your chest up and head high. The demi-human boy said. Raising a hand, the human girl spoke, the red-haired Amazon joked, and the other students laughed happily. Look, it doesn't seem to matter. Even though I lost an adult, at least I didn't expose myself. Rapi passed the exam in the capital bell rang, where he had stopped before, but for personal reasons he delayed admission, so he came to this city on his own. Port of the city of Marin. He doesn't understand anything about this place now, so from today onwards, I hope you can teach him various things as level friends. Just like when you first visited the school district. Yes. Professor Leon summarized my self-introduction and then the students nodded readily. Just when I was surrounded by a sense of relief, I heard Professor Leon say, well, Rapi, find an empty seat and sit down. Then he replied in a voice that was an octave higher, yes, yes. The result was another laugh and I left the podium with a flushed face. When I went up the stairs and looked for my seat, the students were still looking at me with interest. I thought, fortunately, I wore a wig to cover my eyes. My red eyes moved constantly. I must be behaving suspiciously and embarrassingly now. Empty seat, empty seat. My head dropped in embarrassment and I couldn't confirm where the students were sitting, so I wandered through the crowded rows like a headless fly. A place, at that moment. It's empty here. A girl raised her hand. Right in the middle of the classroom. In fact, there is an empty space next to the steps. I was extremely grateful for that and walked over. When I got in front of the girl, I was shocked. You are. Pointy ears, long brown hair tied with ribbons. A strand of bangs is dyed in emerald color. The most important thing is that she has jade green eyes similar to someone else's. I have an impression of her. The half-elf girl I met when I broke into the school district for the first time. My name is Nina. Please give me some advice, Rapi-kun. As expected, this person belongs to Mississippi Aina. What is wrong? Is it possible that her name is a little too familiar? Oh no. How is that possible? Please give me some advice. Although I stuttered a little, I still managed to respond to her greeting. The incident happened suddenly and I was speechless. I hurriedly sat down and tried to get over it. Professor Leon also said, if you have anything you don't understand, you can ask me. I'm happy to help. Perhaps because he was taking care of me who was constantly nervous, after sitting next to me, Nina said, my colleague still spoke to me with a smile. The coat of arms on his chest is light and ship. Like me, they are both, Beetleban. That serious face is also very attractive, but, my attention always focuses on the resemblance to Miss Aina. She inherited the blood of an elf who is often criticized for being misophobic, but has a kind attitude towards others. Calm with a friendly atmosphere. Although she doesn't wear glasses, she looks like Miss Aina. Of course, I couldn't keep looking at her all the time, so I just glanced at her every now and then. She felt weird about it, but she still smiled at me. Now I look like a different person and I've only looked at myself once before, so she probably didn't realize my identity, but I didn't expect that we would meet like this. Although her attitude is very kind, don't get me wrong, new classmate. Nina is an excellent student and treats everyone like that. Senior Millie. Don't say strange things. Professor Leon will give a brief explanation. The girl sitting in the front row with her blonde hair tied up, she is also an elf, probably misunderstood my performance and told me with a smile, which left me shaken, while Nina reminded me that it's time for us to move on. Well, you better be careful. Although I care a lot, I better focus on class now. Well, it was also mentioned at the school meeting held a few days ago that the school district has successfully returned to this port city. Compared to other disciplines, the following days will be more important for you who belong to the combat skills subject. A clear voice came from the pulpit. As soon as Professor Leon opened his mouth, the somewhat impetuous atmosphere in the classroom instantly changed. As the name suggests, the subject of combat skills deals with learning martial arts related to combat, as well as the mental states related to it. Many of you sitting in this classroom must want to become a combat professional. To remind the students of the combat techniques course they talked about in the first place, this is also an explanation for me. Belonging to this discipline of combat techniques, could it be Lord Hermes' suggestion? Anyway, I think it's right. If someone asks me what I want to learn and what I want to strengthen, then my first answer should be combat knowledge and combat skills useful for dungeon exploration. Knights of the Empire, sailors, court wizard, and the city of Orario, adventurers. There are many exits for you, but since that is your goal, experience in the dungeon, one of the 3 great secret realms of the world, will be very valuable. You could say that this is also the focus of teachers like me when doing assessments. For the combat skills discipline, visiting Labyrinth City is also a big event, which was revealed in Professor Leon's words. All the students had serious expressions on their faces and I also looked affected, so I straightened my posture. 3 days later, you will be able to enter Orario through the school district. From that day onwards, the faction experience will also be open, but for everyone in the combat techniques department, the special stage is the most important. At this moment, Professor Leon took out a piece of chalk from the leather pouch on his right waist. The blackboard began to creak. Each team will explore the floors that correspond to their abilities and bring back the dropped items of the monsters designated in advance. Based on the prescribed results of winning the labyrinth, you will receive the corresponding credits.